All right. Okay.
Okay.
In a couple of minutes here. Now, did you want to wait till we talked about Ginger before we start our Floyd profile, or wait till afterwards? By the way.
Well, actually, what I wanted to do is just tell people to find it, listen to it, and not go
Yeah.
any further with it.
Okay. There. Just listen and watch for yourself. That's all we need to say there.
It's
Now,
worth a listen.
yeah, you will flip out. Believe me, you will be like, I guarantee it, man. I was like, when I got that thing in the Gmail that you sent me while I was at lunch, I was like, holy cow!
Yeah,
Huh. Now,
quite unique.
well, for what we're talking about, group of people who are listening, it's a band called Ginger, but instead of two G's, it's two J's. So you get where it's a misspelling there on purpose. We
And
encourage you,
and the song you're looking for is one called Pisces.
yes, and definitely when you, we're not going to say anymore. We're going to let you, the listener, check it out. Look it up on YouTube, and believe me, you will be like, when you see how this girl
It is
sings.
worth the listen. It
Absolutely,
will absolutely amaze you.
definitely. And I often suggested to Ark here to put the link for both YR and Prince Idol here to check it out there. They will be like, holy shit, screw or what, because damn,
Well, I especially would like to Prince Idol to hear it.
especially there. All right, now we'll have to wait, of course, till Prince Idol gets back. I guess he is having lunchy lunch now. I guess.
Well, the first part of Prince, the to me, there's three distinct. I mean, there's more than three, but
I'm still here, Doc.
there's three distinct Pink Floyds
Still
in
here,
my
Doc. Can you
mind.
hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I hear you, Prince Idol. What's up, dude?
I'm still here. I'm still listening. I'm still here.
All right,
Still
all
with
right,
you.
good. Yeah, yeah. Did you get a glimpse of what we are talking about? The group that we're mentioning that we mentioned.
Yes, I did. I've been
Yeah.
listening the whole time.
All right. All right. Believe me, you will not be
I
disappointed
definitely
because
want
that,
you to hear it.
yeah, definitely.
Yes.
You'll be like, holy cow. We can't wait to hear YR's reaction to this as well.
Yeah, because
Yes.
that's kind of up his alley. He might even already know about him.
All right.
I don't know. I have no. I know that he's metal, and this band. God, I don't know what to call them. I
It's kind of
think
like
they're
a,
Now,
metal, but not
like
really.
that, then when you say it like that, I'm interested. You say I don't even know what to call them. That's hype enough for me.
Well,
That's
all
good
right.
I
hype enough.
think they're kind of metal, but it it's elements. I mean, it's well. Hear the song, and you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's called Pisces. Listen to it on YouTube, or Art can put the link
Oh, it's on
in the
YouTube.
list. All right, good. Yeah, definitely. Look it up there and you see what the hell we're talking about. And we're talking ginger with two J's instead of two G's in there, by the way.
Yeah, Jinjer.
Hmm.
And I would encourage everybody to take a listen and see for yourself because this group, they're Ukraine based and
Mm.
they're highly unique.
Yeah, a lot of bands are from the Europe kind of considered highly unique when you think about it. There, like the band that we were mentioning, Nightwish, well, with
Yeah, they're
the
Finland.
gods of Finland rock. Yeah,
They're a symphonic metal band. Well,
yeah,
let's put it this way: they cover Phantom of the Opera.
yeah. So I remember they did that a few times there. I remember their former singer Tarja Turin and their bass player Marco. What I think his name is the guy
Yeah,
with the
Marco.
massive. Yes, Marco. They did a pretty excellent rock cover of that song right there. When you
Yeah, and
look at it,
actually, there's also a version with the new singer Floyd Jansen,
yeah.
and
And
they're
I
both
guess
good because they've had three lead singers, and all
yeah,
three of them are very similar.
yeah. Though Floor Jansen, I probably understand, is a lot more like the first original vocalist Tarja Turin, if I am correct.
Yeah,
Hmm. Whereas
but that band is definitely worth a listen.
Annette Hosen was more like a usual girly girl singer there. When you think about it, there,
Yeah,
yeah. But Nightwish is one of those unique bands. Like I said, my ex girlfriend was big, big, big on them. She would have wanted to check them out if they came in the up to about when he came to America. But the problem is most of the is club owners don't really know who they are. They're mostly she'd be like Mexis. She would actually say things like America is so sexist for not accepting this kind of metal. It's like, excuse me, that's just how it is at times. There are bands here in the states that don't really do well in their home country here, but they're massively big in other countries. Some think, for example, the Runaways.
Right.
They were not that with that. They released albums here and there, but they would still play clubs. But yet they'd be a massive success in Japan.
Yeah. I mean, well, countries have different tastes. Is basically
I
what
know,
you get
yeah,
down to it.
that's true. There, yeah, yeah,
Anyway, on the subject of Pink Floyd,
that's right.
we'll start at the very beginning.
Yeah,
Their first few
thank,
albums were mostly psychedelic.
yeah. And we're talking the Piper Gates of Dawn here, which came out in I guess '67. I guess it was.
I think it was. It
Yeah,
was early. It was the mid '60s. I know that.
yeah.
Um,
That's when during the Summer of Love, the same year that
yeah.
Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band came out. The Summer of Love was in full bloom at that time. There, you know.
This version of the group had Sid Barrett on guitar and vocals, and it
All
still
right.
had Waters Wright and Mason.
Yes,
Roger
that's right.
Waters.
Sid Barrett. I guess his real name was Roger Keith Barrett. There, I don't know how he got the Sid name, but then probably he gave it to himself as a stage name or something like that. And
But they started
you know,
this album out with Astronomy Divine, and
yeah,
boy, what a start! I
it
mean,
was
that song
absolutely.
is incredible. And like I
Yeah,
said,
and the
this album is mostly psychedelic. Uh, Side two
Lucifer
opens with
Sam.
Interstellar Overdrive, which is a nine
Yeah,
minute tour de force instrumental that
yep.
really gets trippy.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah. In fact, by the way,
That's
there's this little video I saw. There was a festival in Sweden. Pink Floyd jamming with Frank Zappa on that particular track.
That doesn't surprise me.
No surprise at all, but that's very interesting there.
And a lot of
And
the other songs in this album are very good too.
by the way, if that's really foul-mouthed Ken in my chat up there, feel free to call on the show, dude.
Oh yeah, he might have seen. I was able to get a little plug from Devious Dave
Yeah, okay.
because he was
It
on.
really,
He was on earlier, and he was
yeah, I
started
was gonna
talking
say,
about some of the shows that were coming on tonight, and I mentioned it, and he gave us
all
a
right,
plug. So the cool.
all right, nice. Thank you, Devious Dave, for the plug on our show. So let's see let's see who will be tuning in later on. Plus, I always plug our show on almost all my vlogs on my channel there.
Yeah.
yeah.
Goodness. Now,
Now this first album, the re-release,
yeah,
where they kind of packaged it up and put it out with other things, also had two of their early singles.
yeah,
Uh,
Arnold Lane.
Arnold Lane and See Emily Play.
Yes, I've heard See Emily play. I heard See Emily play a few times there, and Arnold Lane's a pretty god crazy song. But when you think about it, it's about a guy who steals women's underwear.
Yeah, like I said, this group was their first. Oh, I'd say 3 or 4 albums. We'll divide it up in a minute.
That's right.
Uh, were psychedelic. I
Hmm.
mean, the only touch of prog you see in the early albums is well, Interstellar Overdrive in the first one. That's very proggy.
Oh,
And now the second album did have some prog of
yeah,
sorts, but it
and we're
was still
talking.
psychedelic.
Yeah, and it was. And by the way, this is the album that would introduce David Gilmour into the group.
Yes.
Apparently, at that time, Sid Barrett's erratic behavior was getting way out of control. I mean, there were times where
So
he
they
would stop
incorporated Gilmore in. Yes.
as a backup in case Sid didn't want to decided to spaz out. Gilmour would fill in for the rest of the song there. In fact, there was one situation where I think I mentioned this. I read about in a magazine. Barrett took these pills that he crushed them up, took some hair cream, and then mixed them all up, smeared it over his face. When he later gets on stage with the Floyd, the stage lights starts causing the hair cream and stuff to drip on his face. So from a distance, it looked like his face was melting.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, there you
I'm
are.
saying
Right. What up?
I'm saying he took like pills to like get high on. Or what do you mean?
Oh
Let's
yeah.
say.
In fact,
Well, yeah.
If
was
you
the
want a
thing
good
back then.
read,
Yeah.
read A Saucer Full of Secrets. It's the story of early Pink Floyd.
Yeah, back then it was the drugs like that, like psychedelics, LSD. Those were the big things around that era there. But the mistake being made here by Barrett was schizophrenic, and
Mm.
anybody knows from the top of their head, you don't do psychedelic drugs, whether it's even whether including cocaine or heroin, when you have a mental illness, because
Right.
obviously it
Well,
makes the condition more worse.
you'll find out in the book that one of the other problems was when Sid went to parties, people thought it was fun to put drugs in his drinks
Yep.
and watch him react and see what he would do. And this got to be way out of hand.
Oh yeah.
After a while, he pretty much lost it.
Yeah, and they just couldn't concentrate, couldn't perform no more. And I guess what it was is that the Floyd decided, you know what, we have to can this guy. David Gilmour, you're the new guy now.
Yeah, and Barrett on that first album had a lot to do with some of the songs.
Yeah,
Second album was more along the lines of Waters Right. They did it.
Gilmour. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of it that. In fact, that was, in fact, only one Sid Barrett song appears on Saucer Full of Secrets, the closing track, Jug Band Blues.
Yeah. Now, songs worth noting here, and I do have a list when we get to it.
Yeah, pretty good album, by the way. It's just Saucer, the second record.
Let There
by the
Be
way.
More Light is a cool song.
Absolutely.
Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun.
The original version there.
I love the titles to a lot of these songs.
Yeah.
A Saucer Full of
Corporal-
Secrets.
The title cut, Corporal Clegg, which is that anti-war song.
Yeah. I mean, this album is, well, let's be honest. Pretty much
Hold
every
up.
Pink Floyd is
Who's
worth it.
calling?
It's Falmouth Ken.
Oh, okay.
Ken,
okay, he's good.
tell you what, Ken, I will add you because
He's
right
a-
now I'm deep at the
I'll add
discussion
him in.
here.
I'll add him in.
Yeah,
I'll add
good,
him in.
good,
He's
man.
a big Pink Floyd. He's a big Floyd fan too.
Yeah, it's gotta be get the dude
Yes,
here, man.
I love that as well.
What's
I
up?
love their instrumental. I love their instrumental beats.
Oh man, you should check out the stuff from Amagama. which
Oh,
came
yeah,
out
we'll
a
get
couple
to
years ago.
Amagama.
That was a
Amagama.
trip-ass record.
We'll
I
get
thought
to
that's
that
what
one.
Bullfrog used to do. I
But
didn't know there was a song. I
What's
thought that was
up,
just something
Falmouth
Bullfrog
Ken,
used
ladies
to
and
do.
gentlemen, has joined the call here.
man, I tell you what,
Hey, what's
this
up?
is a group I could spend hours on.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
this group is phenomenal.
Absolutely, man. The
I
second
didn't realize
biggest
that
band,
was a group.
Oh, it
After all,
was.
What's the name?
Pink
What's
Floyd.
the name again?
Yes.
Pink-
Oh no, not Pink Floyd. I'm just saying the name. I know who Pink Floyd is.
Now you've always been a big Floyd fan, Ken. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Oh, I know. Yeah, dude. I know all this shit.
Sweet.
Oh, if you
It
even
comes
go
to
back
life-
to the first two albums, then you are definitely a Pink Floyd fan.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
dude.
And all the,
I've
by the
been to
way,
a couple of Floyd concerts.
nice. Lasers, stage lights, and everything.
Well, the DVD to own is the Pulse concert.
Yeah, I heard
You know what
about
they
it a lot.
had for years out here? You know what they had for years out here?
What?
They had the Pink Floyd laser light show.
Yeah, they used to have it back in Michigan
Yes.
just as well. Like
They
places
used
like
to
the
have it
Royal
around
Oak
here.
Theater. Yeah, they had them almost everywhere
They had
there.
it all the time. Yeah. They had it in a big aquarium place here on Long Island, and it was a really cool like 3D, 4D type of show that they were doing. Music.
Yeah, we kind of talked a little bit about Sid, who, after he was kicked out, had a few solo albums too, which were
Yeah, produced by
Spacey.
Waters and Gilmour, by the way.
they were spacey.
Very spacey. But then again, the condition Sid was in at that time, it was, of course, it was expected to be.
Yeah, but like I said earlier, their first three or
And
four
it was
albums
kind
were
of funny, I get-
largely
don't get me-
psychedelic.
You know what?
And-
I need to talk about this. Here's something else, and this is given part on the Gilmour and Waters and the rest of Floyd. For doing this, they made sure Sid Barrett got paid well for the songs he performed and wrote for those two albums. Even though he he became a recluse afterwards, a little bit with his ma up until her death there. He was definitely a wealthy recluse when you look at it there, because despite the wars that Gilmour and Waters had got into throughout the years. They both made sure Sid got his full justice of dollar bill royalties, you name it there. Because
Yeah.
people are still buying those albums because to find out about this guy, you know. And it's to say that all the Pink Floyd albums out there, except the Endless River, which came out in 2014, you know, they've been reissued, they've been remastered on 180-gram vinyl on their label, Pink Floyd Recordings.
Girl,
Yeah, yeah.
you guys are a little bit older. So this question I definitely have to ask you and Mr. Strogel being here.
Hmm.
How do you guys feel about John Hinckley being let out of jail?
Uh,
What?
I
What?
don't think that's proper, but that's me.
Hmm. Well,
Yeah.
I know that he's released a couple of videos of him performing songs. I checked out one of those
John
after I
Hinckley?
said John Hinckley. Yes, he apparently he wrote a few songs. He sang them, and he has them on. It's on YouTube. I understand.
Wow.
I was like, holy shit, wow. But
Serious?
yes, I saw him. Yes, there's a Facebook music group called Track of the Day that posted one of his videos. I'm like, huh? Really? 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 Huh? And I
Yeah.
checked that out. It's like, wow, interesting. It's like
What did he
the
do
guy
that?
who I don't know, but it's kind of interesting. The guy who tried to kill President Reagan to impress Jodie Foster. It's like, wow, he's actually a singer.
Well, this is very weird. It's becoming like a fad now of them letting people out of jail that, because the guy RFK was let out, that dude recently,
Yeah,
the guy who killed RFK,
yeah.
and,
Robert
I
F.
was
Robert Kennedy.
out. Yeah, and you know who else they're thinking about letting out soon?
Who?
The son of Sam.
Oh my
What?
gosh.
Are you serious?
That's what I heard. I don't know if it's an internet rumor or something, but yeah.
Yeah, but here's the thing: has he learned his lesson on what not to do? Because too many
Well,
times we see so many
Well,
people, get
I
let out,
doubt it.
to do the same shit again.
my
I doubt
personal
it.
opinion is learn your lesson. That would you killed somebody. You tried to kill
Yeah.
somebody.
More. In this
Jail.
case, on his
Stay
case, so
there.
more.
The lesson, your lesson should be if you took somebody's life, your lesson should be that your life is now taken.
Right.
And you
Absolutely.
no longer have a normal life. That's it.
And besides, if he does get out of jail, all the friends and families of all the victims that he killed, they'll probably have their revenge upon him.
Well, look at guys that are on YouTube right now, like what's his name? Fucking guy who put Gotti away, Sammy the
Oh,
Bull Gravano. The guy's
ah,
making thousands and thousands of dollars a week now as a YouTuber, telling
wow, interesting.
stories. Yeah, telling stories about how he killed people and how he
Wow,
killed them in detail, and he's putting it on YouTube and making money off of these people's deaths now.
wow.
And then
Yeah,
YouTube bans people talking about
yeah,
other stuff.
yep,
I
Unreal.
know.
exactly. If we mention Biden more than 5 times, they throw you off the internet. You know?
Or in this case, supporting Trump, we get in
Yeah,
trouble with that. With that,
that's crazy, man. It's crazy. It's really like the upside down world, bro.
I
Yeah.
know.
Real great. Is this a music show or political talk? Come on, guys. Let's.
No, this
There you
has
go.
to do with it.
He's
Yeah, well,
right.
Ken wanted
Yeah,
to throw that in there, but
No. Listen, I went live on my channel for a couple minutes just to plug your
I thought
channel's
this was the
live.
YR
So
program
Let's do
for a
this.
second.
let's go.
Okay.
Pink Floyd talk. Jacob R.
Back
knows a lot about
back to
Pink
Pink
Floyd.
Floyd. Their third album was a soundtrack. More.
Mm. Yes, I have that. I had that on vinyl. That originally came back or was released on Capitol Records distributed label called I guess it was called Track Records. I think it was. No,
Yeah.
it was.
It's
It
a
was
good
different.
soundtrack.
It is.
The one song on there that really stuck out for me was the Now song.
Now, so yes,
That
that was
song
heavy.
is
What music are you
incredible.
guys talking about?
Pink Floyd.
Yes.
Oh, Pink Floyd. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. A lot of people like Pink Floyd. I've never really
Yeah.
heard Pink Floyd like that.
Oh man, you got to listen. We got the
There's a
album
lot of
right.
parts of music that I've never tapped into. I've always been stuck to either just hip hop and salsa, or like also some Frank Sinatra. I do like Frankie.
Oh, that's
Nice.
a good one,
But Pink
actually.
Floyd, I never gave a chance to because I just never grew up, or her, grew up hearing
Oh,
Pink
you
Floyd.
come to the right place, Jacob. You'll definitely sit down, take a seat, and learn
There's
because we're
definitely a
going to
lot of
teach a
music out
lot.
there that I have yet to learn about,
Oh,
which is
there's
pretty
Oh
tons.
yeah.
embarrassing for
Well,
my
that's what
age.
we're trying to do here. We're on, what is it, 63?
Yeah,
Yeah,
64?
I'm
I
gonna
think
sound
so.
fucking
Yeah,
stupid, but is Pink Floyd a girl or a guy?
Pink
it's a
Floyd's a
band.
group of four.
It's a band.
Oh
It's a
my
band.
I
god.
sound
Yes.
fucking stupid
Oh
as
my
hell.
God.
Hey, don't worry about it. It's okay.
You know what? You know what? Believe it or not, remember the Pink character in the Wall album and movie?
Yes.
That
Yes.
was that was a joke inspired by some of the promoters and agents asking, "Which one's Pink?" to the members.
Yeah, which is kind of
I
weird.
started with Tupac and Biggie. That was my starting
I
music.
see.
Yeah, that's why Pink Floyd wasn't really in my category.
I am.
Yeah.
It can be though. It's never too late.
Yeah, it's true.
Well,
I'm gonna start
as we go
actually looking it
along,
up.
we'll kind of point out ones you should start with.
All right.
Because I wouldn't start with Piper at the Gate It's On. It's worth listening to. It's a very good listen, but it's not truly the Pink Floyd everybody knows.
No.
Okay,
It's how they
next album
started
was
out.
Ummagumma, which is a double set.
Great album.
Record 1 is
Yeah.
Great
live.
album.
Record 2 is
Absolutely.
studio.
Yeah, and the studio album it features separate pieces spotlighting the members of the group. Like parts 1, 2, and 3. Sisyphilus, I think that's what it's
Sisyphus.
pronounced. Sisyphus, yeah, that features Richard Wright. The second piece, a couple two pieces there.
Well,
Grand
the
Chester
one
Meadows and small species of animals gathered together in a cave.
that's
and
one of
grew
my
within the
favorite
pink.
song titles of all time.
Yeah, that's it. And by the way, that features Roger Waters doing with tape loops, going speed it up, slow down, making all those noises. That's Waters himself there. And this is way before the samplers, way before auto tune, way before all these technical devices that these studios today have.
And
Mhm.
the piece actually sounds like several species of small furry animals gathered together in
In
a
a pit.
cave grooving in a pit. I mean,
Yes.
it's really space. It was psychedelic. Let's put
Really
it in.
trip out. Really trip out. Really tripped out to listen to there. And by the way, also David Gilmour has a little piece of his own called "The Narrow Way" Parts 1, 2, and 3. There,
Right?
yes, and of course the album that piece ends with the Grand Vizier's Garden Party, which features the percussion work of Nick Mason. And
Yeah.
here's
So they all
something
had
else,
their own little songs.
little pieces there that spotlighted their talents. Of course, the live album featured 4 tracks:
Mm.
Astronomy, Dotomy, Careful with That Axe, Eugene.
Yeah,
which is
that
a
one will freak you out.
especially Roger Waters' scream on that track there before it builds up there. That scream is probably one of the most blood curdling,
It'll take you out of
sounds
your
ever.
seat.
Absolutely there. Give Waters his credit. Not only was he the great lyricist and the main songwriter of the group, he also had this massive scream which would just freeze your blood cold. It's like, holy shit, dude. Of course, side 2 we have of course, had the set the controls for the Heart of the Sun, the live version there, which I prefer mostly to the studio version.
Yeah.
And the live version of The Saucer Full of Secrets, holy cow, that was massive.
Yeah. I mean, they're still in their psychedelic era.
Yeah.
They pretty much stayed here. Well, we'll get to the album that they kind of changed on,
Yes.
and it was gradual because the album before. Well, we'll get to them.
Absolutely.
Next album was Adam Hart and Mother,
Yeah. The
which
Adam
was
Hart
definitely
Mother.
trippy.
Yeah, it was because it featured a full orchestra and a choir on the title piece itself there. The rest of the album on side 2 would include a couple of ballads like Summer 68, If, Fat Old Son, and a piece called Alan's Psychedelic Breakfast, which featured, featured some guy, pouring cereal and eating it as well while David Gilmour plays his acoustic guitar song there.
Yeah,
And that was pretty much, it was kind of mellow when you look at it there.
Yeah, it's a good album though.
It is.
You won't hear me say the words "bad album" for Pink Floyd, except I'm going to come close on one of them.
All right.
Mhm.
We'll get to it. The next
Okay.
album is probably one of my pre-Dark Moon favorites, Dark Side of the Moon favorites, Metal.
Oh yeah, Meddle. That's when they started to really come on their own. And by the way, for the record, the cover for that album, is actually a human ear collecting sound waves underwater.
Yeah, it looks like a camel head or something. I don't know, but
I know something like that. I thought it was a nose at first. It turns upside down for some reason there, and then when you open the gatefold and you look at it from a sideways, that I see what you're talking about there. I see. And this is the album to feature both the phenomenal tracks "One of These Days" and, of course, the epic "Echoes."
and this is where you start hearing the prog come in. Those two
Yes,
songs,
yeah. Yes,
because
and
those songs are
if you
definitely.
can, Prince, if you ever hear if you ever listen to the piece "Echoes," definitely check it out, man.
Oh yeah, and one
All
of
right,
these days is. It's only got one lyric in it, but it's one that's gonna kind of. You really got to listen to hear what he's saying. But he says, "One of these
absolutely.
days, I'm going to cut you into little pieces."
Yep, and that's after the bridge there, where Waters has that tremolo effect on his guitar there.
And that song on the
Imagine,
Pulse, they played it on the Pulse tour.
yes,
Incredible.
absolutely. Although it's not Waters not playing bass on that
No,
tour
I
there, it was
think
a guy
it's what
named Guy Pratt.
isn't he like somebody's son-in-law?
Yeah, I'm not too sure of the son-in-law. I just remember his name was Guy Pratt, I think it was.
Yeah, but that album right there is where Pink Floyd really started breaking the mold.
Hmm. And of course, we go on to another soundtrack to another French film, The Valley. In the state, it was called Obscured by Clouds, Music from the Valley.
And it's got some great little tracks on it too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The title cut, When You're In, Bernie Bridges, The Gold, It's in the, Watts on the Deal, Mudmen, Childhood's End, which is a good one, Free For, another anti war song, A Ballad Called Stay, composed and sang by Richard Wright, and the closing track, Absolutely Curtains, which ends with this some I think it's an Indian choir, I guess. I'm not too sure what they're singing there, but it's an album. It's definitely a good album to close it. It's a good. bleh, It's a good piece to close an album out when you look
Right.
think about it there.
Okay, and before we move on, because this is where I have my first divide,
Hmm.
because to me that although the second Pink Floyd is playing early, Dark
Yep.
Side of the Moon kind of separates them.
Yep.
And my first list is the early stuff from those albums that we just talked about.
Yes.
And if I was going to make recommendations, my number 10 would be Saucer Full of Secrets.
Mhm.
My number 9 would be Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun.
All right.
My number 8 would be a song called Biding My Time, which you can
Mm.
only find on one of the greatest, on one of their hits collections. But that song's
Ah.
got some phenomenal stuff going on.
Ah. I see there.
Then 7 is See Emily Play.
Hmm.
6 is Let There Be More Light. 5 is Interstellar Overdrive. 4 is One of These Days. 3 is, sometimes I can't read my own damn writing, Astronomy
Hmm.
Divine. 2 is The Nile Song.
Ah.
And my number 1 from this era, if I was going to recommend somebody find a song to listen to and really get the gist of Pink Floyd, Echoes.
Ah. Yeah.
I mean, to me, that is such a phenomenal song. It's
Ah.
unreal. Is Ken
Oh
still
wow.
with us?
Yeah, he's
Yeah, I'm
still
here.
right here. Yep, he's just listening along here.
So, did I miss anything?
No, not really. No, Now we're going to get into the Pink Floyd, the successful Pink Floyds after this, because as we know, Dark Side Moon comes out in '73,
And this is the Prog Pink
massive
Floyd.
album. Yeah, this is when Pink Floyd becomes an absolute household name. That album
How
goes.
can you have any meat if you don't eat your supper?
Well, actually, that's from
That's
the
later
Wall,
on. That's
but
in 1980 at the Wall there, which we will definitely get to.
What
there.
year are we talking now, though? What year? What year are
19,
you guys in now?
1973.
and if I was
Side
going
Moon.
to recommend a first album listen, this is it.
Yep. This
So
is the
that
one
was
that
the
every
first one.
no, the first one was Piper at the Gates of Dawn. This is the album.
That was what? What year was that?
67.
Oh, okay. So wow, man. They spanned a long time too, huh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
they started in 1965, believe it or not.
Holy shit.
Yeah, a lot of bands that we started a lot of years before, Think about it.
Well, you think of Pink Floyd in the '80s? They were like, they had a following by then that was like really
yeah.
big,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they were still kind of like, not like they were mainstream at that point, but they weren't like sellout mainstream.
Right. They weren't
where they were
pop.
on every billboard.
They
Yeah,
never went,
no, they
They
never
didn't have-
did. They never did.
no, they hardly had any hit singles. I mean, they allowed to have money. They allowed the song "Money" to be a hit single, but that would probably be it for now. That was, of
But
course,
that is now don't you that song "Money"? Man, what a fucking that sound from that era. Is in that song so much. That sound from that era.
Right.
yeah, the '80s there, because that was about making money.
Yeah, the early '80s. It had that disco-y, rocky, sound to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know?
And Dark Side of the Moon, like I said, is a good listen. Standouts for me off this particular album is Time, of course.
obviously there.
And I like The Great Gig in the Sky. I
Because
often
the
told,
features, what?
I often
'cause
told
the-
people I'd like that played at my funeral.
Yeah.
Nice. And of course,
Oh,
my
man.
two favorite standout tracks would have to be "Breathe" and "On the Run."
Yeah, yeah. Us and
Because
Them.
of that. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And
of
Brain
course,
Damage Eclipse is just incredible.
Yeah, that's it.
What
That's
song
two
on that
closing
album?
tracks. What
One
happened?
song on that album that reminds me of my grandfather. I forget the name of it, man. It's like song 7 or 8 on the album.
Hmm.
Which one that is?
Is it,
any color you like?
No, that's an instrumental. I'm thinking probably Brain Damage. Eclipse.
Those two
Might be,
tracks.
Well,
yeah,
Brain
maybe it might
Damage
be
has
right
got the
before
one
Brain
verse
Damage.
about the lunatic is in my head. The lunatic is in my head.
And the lunatic is on the grass. The
Yeah.
lunatic is on the grass. Yeah.
Yep.
You raise the blade, you make the
The one right
change.
before that.
You
There's-
rearrange
Yeah,
me
you
till
have
I'm in, so till I'm
Actually,
sane.
no, I'm sorry. It's the one it's the song that they go into right after that song. The lunatic is on the grass song. That
Eclipse.
Eclipse, yeah, the
Yes,
closing track.
That's the one. That's the one, man. That
And all
song.
that you touch
so-
and all that you see.
Oh man, that fucking song is so deep. That could like.
Oh,
if
yeah.
You don't listen to that, and you don't get like emotional listening to that, man. You don't have a soul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That shit is like one of the greatest songs.
Oh, yeah. This,
Yeah.
but this is definitely an album that needs to be heard front to back.
Mm-hmm.
Without
And
doubt, you
especially
can't
with
listen to that album without playing it all the way through.
Yep. And, of
there's
course,
so many
there's the
what-
rumor that it matched up with Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, I was going to
It did.
mention about that.
Man, I watched it. I watched it a million times, man. I used to do it when I was a 14-year-old. It lines up perfectly.
Yeah, it's
It
amazing.
does, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, that part where they say the lunatic is on the grass and the scarecrow literally jumps onto the grass as soon as he says that. Crazy.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
did
there's
it.
a lot of things in the song that match up with the movie.
Yeah, like every time they
I
switch a
think,
scene.
I think there's a YouTube now where they actually combine those two together perfectly there.
Oh, yeah, I've
you
seen
buy
it.
too. Yeah, you could also buy the DVD too.
But
Absolutely, yeah.
it's incredible. I don't know who figured that out or who did it, but
That is crazy.
Probably the
Well, there
same
was
people
rumors
who
that
came.
the album was. There was rumors that the album was made to that.
wow.
You know?
Which, of course, the Floyd dislodged as well, which their drummer Nick Mason said was a load of rubbish.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I
But
think
then
it
again, the
is.
people probably. But then again, the same. These are the people who came up with that theory. Kind of like were the same ones who thought that Revolution #9 was about Paul McCartney's death years
Yeah,
before.
but you know what though? You got to say, man, Floyd is like cryptic on a lot of shit. Floyd,
Absolutely.
so you never know with them, man. They could have done some crazy shit like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If there's one band that could have done it, it's them.
Yeah.
You know?
And something worth seeing too is if you ever get the Pulse DVD, they do that album in its entirety
Yes.
on the second
Holy,
disc.
Yes.
that's all. Yeah.
Because Pink
And
Floyd.
with
'Cause
all
Pink
the
Floyd.
effects going on at the same time,
Yeah.
oh man.
You
I
got to
love
remember.
how all the songs. I love how all the songs mix into each other.
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah. That's
it's definitely one big
that is
story.
crazy. And the engineer
Yeah,
who
man.
credit the engineer who did that, Alan Parsons.
Yeah, but did they plan that? Like the engineer plan that, or did they like did they plan that?
I'm thinking possibly, maybe so, since it was the concept album. When you look at it, about the one
Because
going
has anybody
insane.
ever did that? Like you guys would know this because you're such music buffs. Did anybody do that leading up to that point when that album came out? Like
Well,
where
the
they
Moody,
strung all the songs together?
The Moody Blues did it a lot.
yes, they did a lot on their earlier records. The Core 7 there, the Core 7
Also, they would
albums,
mix. They would mix in songs into
fade
into the
into one another.
They,
yeah.
Days of Future Past does it definitely.
Yeah,
And
so
the
did
album
In
after
Search of
that,
the Lost Chord.
In Search of the Last Chord. Well, all of them did, but the
All of them.
classic
Oh, it
seven.
seems like the greatest albums. It seems like some of the greatest albums did that kind of concept.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Well, the Echoes compilation did that just as well there.
yeah. The Echoes, like I said, that's just a phenomenal piece of music.
Yeah.
I can't call it a song. To me, it's a piece of music.
It's yeah, absolutely. I think it's an epic,
Welcome to the machine.
which is another
Yeah.
epic, by the way.
Which we're going to get to now. That's the next album. Is
Wish You Were Here.
Oh, fucking another juggernaut.
Yeah,
this is another one worth. If you're going to start out with Pink Floyd, that would be among the ones you'd think about.
Yes. And
'Cause-
this is a new change of direction there. Well, not basically.
it's still Prog.
It's still Prog, but it's like now that Dark Side became a massive success, how do we top this one off? At the same time, they just signed a new deal with CBS Records, where within their contract they were granted copyrights of their music.
Yeah, and that first song, "Shine On You Crazy Diamond," is pretty much Sid Barrett.
It is. It's
His
about him.
story.
His story, his this spotlight there. And what are the funny things about making that album while they were doing the Shine On sessions?
Oh, yeah, I
Guess
heard
who
this
pops
story.
into? Yep, we all know. And there's a photograph of him in the studio, looking as he was at that time, totally different than what he looked in the past. But you could tell it's still him. Sid Barrett.
Who was it?
Sid Barrett,
Really?
their founding member, who had to leave because his mental state was getting out of control there.
Yeah.
He shows up while the band was doing a song about him, "Shine On You Crazy Diamond," and then he kept getting it up, walking to the bathroom, brushing his teeth multiple times. Everyone to the studio is like, "Who's that guy? Do you know who that guy is?" "I don't know who that guy is." Then he realized it was Sid. It was Sid.
Dude,
And,
that must have been fucked up for those guys in there as they're recording that.
Yeah, it was because he didn't know who he was. He did not recognize him. He
Yeah,
was
dude, that's
bald.
crazy shit.
Yeah,
that's
and
some crazy-
especially
They
how
gotta
he
make
looked
the
back
movie.
then.
They got to make the Pink Floyd movie, man. Come on.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
If they do it, have to
Absolutely.
be a 3-part.
Think about
they-
it, though, man. They made movies about all these fucking
That's
guys.
true.
That's
That's
true.
true.
All right, like, come on.
There's a huge story in this
Floyd
movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
They would have to
all
make
their
it a
albums
trilogy.
wrapped around. All their albums are wrapped around their lives and people they knew and like situations and so everything's connected to something.
A
You
lot
know.
of what's going on within the world there. I guess the final cut had some of the was kind of like written with the what was going on with the Falklands situation
I
over
ask
there.
you guys.
Yeah.
Can I ask you? I know it's a little premature, but what is your favorite track of all time from these guys?
Oh, well, I'll get to that in my list.
No, that's
Of
difficult
all
because
time,
there's
it's
so
real
many of them.
difficult, actually. But
Yeah, because like it's almost impossible. It's almost impossible to pick an all-time
yeah,
song.
I mean, when I give you a top
Because they're
10
all good.
list, any one of them could be number one.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah.
that good of a bunch of songs.
Yeah.
Now, one of the interesting things on this album is Have a Cigar was actually sung by a guy named Roy Harper
Yeah.
because
Really?
Waters couldn't sing it.
Yeah. And the song is about is the viewpoint of a record executive who welcomes Pink Floyd into their office, and who in the second verse they find out we just heard about Dark Side becoming a big hey, you got to put another album out. You got to keep this straight. It's called Riding the Gravy Train. Basically, the whole album "Wish You Were Here" was about the music industry.
Yeah,
Welcome to the Machine. That was about welcome to the
Oh, I
music
love
world.
that.
Yeah.
Well,
And the Machine. Yeah. And by the way, Waters spoke about, the coming up with the same old hits, same hit songs after hit album, after hit
yeah,
tour, after hit
that's why they
video.
never sold out, dude. That's why
Yeah.
they never went pop like Queen did, and like all these other groups that were around during the same time as them. And
pretty
you know
much
what? I don't like
everybody
to
did.
say this.
Yeah.
Yo,
Everybody. A
and I
lot.
don't like to say this, but I'll tell you this right now, and I don't like to say this because I am a huge fucking fan of Led Zeppelin. But even Zeppelin sold out at that point, man.
Yeah,
They started going like mainstream,
Yeah.
at the end there.
yeah,
And
With Into the Outdoor.
yeah, and for some reason, Floyd always stayed in the background, and they were always looked at as like a lesser group than some of those groups, but they were better than them.
oh yeah,
You know what I mean? They had deeper music, and they never sold
absolutely.
out.
Yeah.
So, you know who else loves Floyd tremendously, and if he was here right now, he would be probably, he knows probably as much as you guys do about Floyd. Is
Yeah.
Filthy Mouth Gamer.
Yeah.
Filthy Mouth Gamer. Absolutely loves.
You think we could get him on the call here by chance?
I mean, you could try calling him. Try it. Try him out.
All right.
Another
don't think I
great
have
song
one
in this
right
album
now.
was "Wish You Were Here."
Yeah, the title
Oh,
cut
that's
there,
a-
which
that's
is
That acoustic guitar and all, it's just a phenomenal song.
yes, and especially the introduction, the way Have a Cigar ends with a sort of, and it goes right to the track being played through a transistor radio. Person switches the dials, and next thing you know, it goes into the song there, still
Yeah,
playing
and
through the
You guys remember the
transistor
well, it's
radio.
funny you on "Have a Cigar." There is the one line in there that we've alluded to about. Oh, by the way, which one's pink?
Yep, that was
Can
the
I
joke
ask you
there.
guys, do you remember the double CD that came out in the 90s? I think it was around like 94, 93. It was
Pulse.
a double CD of Pink Floyd. Yeah, Pulse. And it had the light that kept pulsing
Right.
on it, the CD.
Yes, I remember that. Yes,
Remember that
definitely.
shit?
Yes.
Yeah,
Right?
when we get
And
to the
then it
live
had-
albums, we will
it had-
definitely discuss that.
Yeah, dude, that album, that was like 93, right?
Yeah, I
Around
think so.
94, yeah. Actually, 94, 95, I guess, because remember the Division Bell came out in 94 there. I had that on vinyl.
Vision Bell was fucking great song, too, man. Wow, I remember that CD that was pulsing. I remember that, man. That was their live CD, right? Double disc.
Yes, it was.
Yep. Man, what a great CD that was. It had that
It was.
pulsing light on.
Yeah, and the DVD is definitely worth a pickup. It's a double set,
Oh, yeah?
and it pretty much covers the concert. The light show will blow your mind.
And by the way, I should point out, Pink Floyd had its reputation for doing 2 sets a night on a concert performance there. They would do one
Yeah.
set, take a break, and then continue another set throughout for the rest of the evening. And a lot of the stuff on their stage, the lights, the lasers, and everything, the setup, they paid for that themselves because they had business. I guess they had business ventures on the side there. Either
Yeah,
that or just say after making tons of money from Dark Side of the Moon and The Wall there.
well, and all the light show and everything else going on in that concert matched up with the music perfectly.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's why I think sometimes that they did do that album to the Wizard of Oz, because they are such sticklers when it comes to shit like that in their concerts and their music and everything matching up to something, everything meaning something. You know, like something from another album is put into another album, like a sound or
Right.
a little thing that you don't pick up on right away, but then you know what I mean. And years later, they're
Yeah.
still picking up on stuff in Floyd's music. You know,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
still picking up on shit. You're talking 40 years later. You know,
Yeah. Next album was Animals. This
Oh,
was
yeah.
also an incredible concept album.
It was based on Animal Farm, the novel by George Orwell.
It's got dogs, pigs, and sheep. Well, it's got two little short things about pigs, three different ones and stuff.
Yeah.
But the main songs are dogs, pigs, and sheep. And all three of them have a point.
Absolutely. Yeah, the dogs were these businessmen, greedy businessmen. The sheep were these, well, I don't know about dogs, so let me take that back. The pigs were the greedy businessmen,
Right.
not giving a fuck about humanity or the environment and shit. Sheep were the people with no thoughts, no opinions, no nothing, vacant tons, just follow along whatever like everybody else does. Follow along like what we say, what we believe, everything, which is how most of the people on social who will clock into social media are basically when you think about it. There's
what about all those face diaper wearing people out there right now that are driving in their cars all alone with fucking mask on?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, who are you gonna infect?
Precisely, man. Oh,
Fucking idiots.
I know. It's like, come on. That's the people who buy into the media, the people who buy into what the idiots have that to say here, blah, blah, blah. And like I said, this album was based upon the book Animal Farm by George Orwell, the guy who wrote 1984.
Right.
There was an animated movie based on that book. In fact, you look on YouTube for the tracks from this album here. It basically has, clips from the movie mixed in with the song there.
Yeah.
It kind of fits perfectly, especially with Pig's three different ones there. And of course, by the way, the third pig they're describing in that song was Mary Whitehouse, who condemned the band's music, saying it was evil, it was drug-inducing, this and that, and Waters just kind of like went off on, actually called her out, went off on her in that third verse of that track there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, that's the album featuring that one power station in England there. That place became an iconic place.
Yeah.
Because that's what, because especially people will drive by that place, if they ever get there, people will think, where's the inflatable pig in between the two towers, the two smokestacks there?
Yeah, and it's funny because the pig kind of makes a comeback on the Pulset record during the video for
One of these
days.
Yep.
'Cause the second half of it, you see the pigs.
Yep. They did that at the Momentary Lapse of Reason tour just as well. I remember seeing the Delicate Sound of Thunder on video cassette back in the day.
Yeah. Well, they followed that one up with The Wall.
Yes, and interesting. And let me say this: this album was one of this album ruled the charts throughout 1980. There were three albums you had to have. This one, Heaven and Hell by Black Sabbath, and Back in Black by AC/DC. Those are the three essential albums of 1980. The Wall spoke volumes for those who. Let me put it this way.
And this one was a double set.
Yes, it was. And it also later became a movie just as well,
Right.
and a stage performance as well throughout 1980. They only selected 6 cities to perform this whole album in its entirety there. And it fits to say that anybody out there who went through the situations that the main character, Pink, went through, whether it's losing your parent during a war or growing up with a disrespectful, controlling, manipulative parent, or getting involved with in a rock and roll band, but only resorting to becoming a human jukebox night after night, performing the same songs. You got to keep the hits, got to keep the hits going there. The stress and the pressure for the managers, the record labels, your handlers, this and that, and to conclude with your wife, your husband,
Mm.
being unfaithful to you behind your because you're on the road a lot of times there, or just feeling dissatisfied with the world around you, wanting to lash out at everybody who did you wrong,
And you
taking
can't forget the
revenge.
schoolmaster.
Absolutely, the abuse from the students or the teachers growing up just as well. If you have been through all the situations that the character Pink had went through, this album spoke for you massively.
Yeah,
And a lot of
absolutely.
people relate, and which is probably when you talk to a goth rocker, you know, as much as I did many times, they're related to both the album and the movie. In fact, here's something else. The storyline to Antichrist Superstar by Marilyn Manson, which came out in '96. There's a part where the out of the cocoon, a worm emerges out as a monster fascist dictator. That's what the storyline is in Antichrist Superstar by Marilyn Manson. That came off. Who started that first? Pink Floyd. You watch the movie, you see what I'm talking about there.
Mm.
Yes. I mean, that album really spoke, and it was actually the first Pink Floyd album that I got. I heard so much. It came out in December of '79. I was intrigued by what I was hearing. I bought the album there. I showed the what I bought. I said, "Wow, what the heck?" Is They took a look at the judge and the gatefold
My,
there. I was like, "Holy cow!"
my first one was, believe it or not, Piper at the Gates of Dawn.
No surprise. And from that moment on, when I bought that album, I just started getting into them. So I bought um, Obscured by Clouds, Wish You Were Here, Animals, the Moore soundtrack, a couple others. It's just as well there.
Well,
And
it'll make you thirst for more. It will not whet your
yeah,
appetite.
absolutely, it's worked with Skinny Puppy, the Ramones, Black Sabbath, just as well there. Remember,
And
I'm a creature of habit when it comes to that.
yeah, now they followed this one up with the final cut. And
Yeah,
if there's a Pink Floyd album that's not among my top, this is it.
I know that's a
I mean,
very
there's some
depressing
stuff
album.
on it that's good, but it doesn't match up to all of the others.
Yeah, the story was that this was originally supposed to have been a Waters solo record, but he decided to make a Pink Floyd record. Now, on this record, it was Waters, Gilmore, and Mason. Richard
Right.
Wright had already been out of the group there. Basically, he was let go during the recording of The Wall, but apparently for not pulling his own weight. Well, of course, obviously, Waters was doing all the writing at that point there, so how can Wright pull his own there when you think about it
Yeah,
there?
Waters had pretty much decided that he was the guy in charge and it was going to be his way.
Absolutely. And
It's
of
probably the
course,
best thing in the world for Pink Floyd that he did leave.
yeah, he would lead. He would leave in 1985 there, and this is where it really. This is. I'm sorry, but this album, the final cut, was a depressing piece of work. It was a very grim look at the world, especially when you're coming out from a war there.
Yeah. Well, I have a top 10 for the middle part of Pink Floyd,
All
and
right.
I'll be honest, there's no final cut songs on it.
Uh huh.
Number 10 is Time.
Yep.
Number 9 is In the Flesh. Number 8 is Us and Them. Number 7 is Wish You Were Here. Number 6 is Shine On You Crazy Diamond, both pieces. Number 5 is Run Like Hell, which that song on Pulse is incredible light show.
Yep.
Number 4 is Comfortably Numb, which on Pulse features one of the best guitar solos you will
Yeah.
ever hear.
Yep.
Number 3 is Brain Damage Eclipse. Number 2 is Dogs. And my number 1 favorite from this era is Sheep. For some reason, I really like that song.
Yeah, because of that. What's interesting, the manipulation of the Lord's Prayer into that song
Yeah,
there.
I mean, it's just kind of like...
With the computer, and it's a computerized voice that White is doing there, along
Yeah.
with the actual men's call, not really a men's, but a bunch of men, speak it out at the same time there.
Yeah. But that song just... By and large, it's incredibly heavy, but it's also very melodic
Thought-provoking.
and
Very
thought-provoking.
Yeah, absolutely. Because right now we got lots of sheep right now following what's right on social media.
Okay, after Waters left,
The lawsuit would come about.
yeah,
Waters, it was announced that Pink Floyd would start recording a new album without Waters. They wouldn't continue on as Floyd, where Waters was like, nah, let's let it die. It's over. It's no more, And Waters found out they were going to record it without him. He was like, nope, I'm Pink Floyd. It's my name. Me and Sid Barrett started Pink Floyd. You guys just came afterwards. And he filed a lawsuit against him from preventing him to use the name. Now, it would just drag out for a long while there, but eventually the court would rule into Floyd's favor.
yeah.
And
And this is a good album.
Yeah, it is. A Momentary Lapse of Reason, released in 1987. At that point, if you get the original press copies of it, it would just be Gilmour and Mason.
Mhm.
Richard Wright he had joined the group, but he would not officially be a full-time member once again until afterwards, So they would later add Wright to the reissues there as a trio.
Yeah, and actually he did play on this album,
Yeah, he did.
but basically as a
tour.
session musician.
Musician, yes.
And a lot of standout tracks on this album. Learning to Fly,
Oh, yeah.
Dogs of War,
Yep.
One Slip, On the Turning Away.
A New Machine Parts 1 to 2, which he has this synthesized voice with an echo coming afterwards.
Yeah.
And Terminal Frost, which is a damn good song there. And plus, we can't forget the ending closing track, Sorrow.
Oh, that song is absolutely phenomenal.
Badass to the core there.
Yeah,
Absolute.
I mean, that one, again, the Pulse tour. On that tour is an incredible thing to watch with it synced with the lights. I mean, that song is absolutely great synced with the lights.
Yep, absolutely. And they did the same thing with the Momentary Lapse of Reason tour just as well there.
Yeah. Now, next album is one that I believe Ken mentioned a while ago. Division Bell.
The Division Bell. That came out in 1994. And first track,
Great stuff.
first single from that album, I remember hearing it. It was called "Keep Talking." It featured the voice of Stephen Hawking on the track there.
I don't know.
What was that? I know, but it's interesting there. And that, of course, is about encouraging people to speak more, talk out. Why you never talk to me? Or why the backup singers is asking this one person, why you never talk to me? And Gilmour is basically is talking about how he's trying to get his words out, but he's unable to for some reason.
Yeah.
That conflict that couples often have at times there.
And it had A Great Day for Freedom, Wearing the Inside Out, Take It Back.
Another good song there.
Coming Back to Life.
Yeah, a good intro to that song there. High Hopes, the closing track,
Right.
And plus, what's that one where it says like, so I open my door to my enemies. I tell them, can we wipe the slate clean? But they tell me to go fuck yourself and
I think that sounds like Poles Apart.
pull us apart. No, I think that's the other one there. No, that's
Marooned?
the one that comes after that's the third track from side one there.
Right, Marooned?
Maroon. That track. No, that's instrumental, but that won a Grammy, for what I understand there.
Yeah. What do you
Yeah.
want from me?
Yeah, that's about Waters, by the way, because apparently after Momentary Lapse of Reason, he was still trying to get control of the name, but which he failed miserably again.
Oh, I remember the song you're talking about, but I don't remember which one it is.
I'm looking it up right now. The Vision Bell by Pink Floyd here on the Wikipedia. By the way, this would be the last official studio album for Pink Floyd there. Let's see here. Let's see here. Blah, blah, blah here. No. It came out. They were still, by the way, on EMI over in the UK there, by the way. And back here in the States, it was on Columbia Sony. All right, there. Okay, and I'm looking up here. Let's hear the tracks of the. God damn it. Okay, it's called Lost for Words. That's
it,
track.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. That's the one where he's talking about can we wipe the slate clean there that I mentioned previously there.
Yeah.
And by the way, the covers for this album here on would be, of course, it was done by Storm Thorgerson, who was one half of the Hypnosis team there. It was
Right.
him and Audrey Powell who did all the album covers for Pink Floyd except for The Wall. That was done by Gerald Scarp with his crazy drawings there.
Yeah. And of course, we can't forget their live albums: Delicate Sound of Thunder, Pulse, which we talked about a little bit already, and The
Yep.
Last Days of Pompeii was a good one.
Yeah, I gotta check. You mean Pink Floyd at Pompeii? I guess it was called there.
Yeah. Last Days of Pompeii is a book.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's understandable. Yeah. As I checked out a couple of pieces on YouTube, especially with their rendition of Echoes on that track there.
Oh boy,
Yeah,
that is definitely worth a listen.
absolutely.
And they did have a few compilation albums, and I
Yeah.
think that one of the songs I mentioned, "Biding My Time," is on
Yeah.
one of these compilations, but I don't remember which one.
Mhm.
That
Well,
song is. Go ahead.
the ones I remember were Works in '83 that came out on Capitol. That was basically stuff in their earlier EMI collection there, including
Right.
stuff from Dark Side of the Moon and Piper at the Gates of Dawn there. They had Relics, which featured mostly the early stuff there.
Right.
They also had this one compilation called A Nice Pair, which side 1 and 2 was Piper at the Gates of Dawn, and side 3 and 4 was Saucer Full of Secrets.
Right.
Two
And
of the
that
earlier-
might be the album "Biding My Time's" on. I don't know. But
Maybe
that
yeah.
song is so unique and different overall
I know.
that it's kind of worth finding. And yes, I have a list of those songs.
Nice.
Okay. I did some work on Pink Floyd.
Nice.
At number 10, I got is "What Do You Want From Me?"
Hmm.
Number 9, "Keep Talking." 8, "One Slip." 7, "High Hopes." 6, "Dogs of War." 5, "Coming Back to Life." 4, "Sorrow." 3, "Learning to Fly." 2, "On the Turning Away." And number 1 for me is "A Great Day for Freedom."
Nice. Good song there. I'm looking up Nice Pair on the Wikipedia here. Is of course, reissuing the 2 first albums, as we mentioned, in the new gatefold sleeve. It was released in December of '73 on Harvest, which was their back then was distributed by Capitol Records in the States, and the following month in the UK by Harvest and EMI. He reached number 36 in the U.S. Billboard charts. It was certified gold by the Recording Industry Association of America in March of 1994. Wow, it took that long. Now, there's a couple differences between the U.S. and U.K. versions of this compilation. The U.S. version, that is distributor Capitol Records, reconstructed their edition from tapes that had been previously altered for the debut '67 album Pink Floyd, simply called that. The original U.S. title for Piper at the Gates of Dawn and other recordings, which were cut from the UK version, as expanded on the note on the back cover of the US edition. Songs dropped from the US Pink Floyd albums. Astronomy Domini, Bike, Flamin' are restored for this reissue. However, some of the restored songs that appear in the versions are different from the UK Piper version. The 8-minute Amagama recording of Astronomy Domini replaces the original 4-minute track studio recording. Interstellar Overdrive fades out slightly early, as it did in the U.S. debut album, adds a few seconds of silence before the gnome, rather than using the siege between these songs as found as on the UK version, and a track called Flame It is an alternative mix and edit which previously appeared as a US single, and the only track to appear on this album in mono. In later pressings, a correct studio version of the track was restored, while the other songs contributed to appear in the versions described here. The US version of this album was also released in Canada just as well there. Now, the cover art, of course, is Hypnosis, which designed many Floyd album covers, and this is what really intrigues me about that album. It consists of 4 grinds and 9 small images, including some proposed but previously unused album cover designs.
Wow.
Several images depict a well-known phrase or saying in the form of a visual pun. For instance, the center right-hand panel of the front depicts a fork in the road, while the bottom right represents a flying kettle of fish. Another picture represents 2 puns on the album title, a nice pear, P-E-A-R,
Right.
the fruit, and an image of a woman's pair of breasts, the later, which was, by the way, was censored with the black bar on some copies, while some U.S. copies opted to cover the breasts with a purple and white sticker over the shrink wrap. Initial copies had a picture of Mr. V.R. Fang's dental surgery on the cover, a genuine business photograph in Hammersmith, West London. But Dr. Fang objected because NH dentists were not permitted to advertise, and the picture was replaced with one of a gargling monk.
Yeah.
U.S. editions of the 1980s restored both the nudity and the W.R. Fang photo. The selection of band photos in the inside cover were also varies, with some copies including a photo of a shirtless, disturbed-looking Sid Barrett from the Madcap Laughs photo session with the solo records,
Right.
while others replaced it with a photo of a smiling Barrett sitting in a car. It was their next year was released next to Dark Side of the Moon and introduced the new fans to the early psychedelic sound of the Sid Barrett period of the Floyd, which contrasted greatly to their slightly more recent work. Following the worldwide reissue of the original 2 albums on CD, including the original UK version of the Piper at the Gates of Dawn, A Nice Pair, sadly is now out of print.
Yeah. The all 5 of those guys had a solo career too of sorts.
Absolutely,
They all
there.
released solo albums.
Yeah, I remember the only time I saw any member of Pink Floyd live was in '84 at the then called Pine Knob Music Theater with my dad when David Gilmour was playing there. We saw some of his live work on MTV at that time. It's like, you know what? We got to see this guy in concert.
Yeah.
And my dad agreed. Now we went and checked that out there. And he liked it. It was a pretty damn good show. Next to the Iron Maiden show of following year. And it was, what's interesting, I was attempted to see Roger Waters do his Radio Chaos tour, but I opted out there because for some dumb reason. Nick Mason had a solo record. It's called
Right.
Fiction in Sports, which was which originally was a collaboration between him and an instrumentalist named Carla Bley.
Yeah, and Richard Wright had one too, but I don't remember the name of it.
And it was called Wet Dream.
Yeah.
This came out between Animals and the Wall.
Of course, Roger Waters had Hitchhiker's Guide,
know,
couple
Pros
of.
and cons of hitchhiking.
Yeah. Sorry, I
Radio
was thinking of the
Chaos.
British show.
Uh-huh. And of course, Amused to Death from 1992.
Yeah.
And and of course, Waters remained bitter about the fact that Pink Floyd carried on without him for many ages. And I guess at that time, he realized he was not bigger than Pink Floyd as he tried to make himself to be back in '87. And apparently, he fell flat on his face because apparently his shows were not selling out as much as Pink Floyd's were.
Yeah, and later on, he was actually part of a reunion for them during a special concert of some sort. I don't
Yes,
remember what it was.
2005 at Live 8 in Hyde Park, London. It was announced that he would rejoin Pink Floyd for a 20-minute set there. It was brief, the full version with the reprise included on it there. Money, Wish You Were Here, and of course, Completely Numb. It
Yeah.
It was after 20 years after the performances of The Wall that the four basic members of Pink Floyd would reunite there, and that would be it. That would be it there.
Yeah, and actually, you got the impression that he kind of liked it.
Yeah, they do. Exactly. Now, here's something else. Gilmore tried to leave the stage as much as he can, not as quickly as he could, because he wasn't really up for it at that time. But Waters kept, when they were getting, shoulders around each other's shoulders, say, "Come back, Dave, come back, Dave." Eventually, Dave actually did, and some people are taking photographs like crazy, and we see him on the Google Images when you look up Pink Floyd, 2005.
Yeah.
Yes, and sadly, this will be the last time we would see Richard Wright perform with the group
Right.
because
Of
a
course
couple
he
years later,
passed.
he died from cancer in 2008. And
Yeah.
of course, in 2014, there would be their complete official final album, The Endless River, which was basically sessions, instrumentals. Basically,
It was
done.
stuff
It
that
was
was called, yeah.
a tribute to Richard Wright, basically there.
Yeah.
Hey Doc. No, I wanted to comment on Pink Floyd. Like I said before, I just love their long guitar solos. I love their instruments because they really have some really unique instrumentals, and I mean, I just love it. And I wanted to shoot on
Absolutely.
them.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Well, actually, I'm glad you did because I was fixing to ask the other people on the call to kind of, if they had anything they wanted
I
to
think it's
contribute.
just. I think it's just either the three at this moment. I think YR and Ken left there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've been listening the whole time. I told you I like to absorb knowledge, so you always can count on me.
Well, we're
Nice.
we're trying to give it to you.
All right, there. We're doing just that, kid.
Absolutely. And you can't go wrong with virtually any Pink Floyd album. Well,
Yep.
I'd save the final cut.
Except for the final cut, because
I'd
that
save
record
that, and
is
it's
ultra-depressing.
incredibly depressing.
Absolutely. Not something you want to play when you're getting ready to party down on a Saturday night.
It
Even
was
Dave
almost,
gave me some yesterday night on the YR channel. Even Dave Rose told me to do my homework on certain things he wanted me to check out, and that's what's wrong with this generation, Doc. I don't think a lot of people care to want to learn and educate themselves because
well, I
the
get
more
the
the
impression.
more
I think
knowledge
you're right.
you have, the more you go far in life. That's how I see it.
Yeah,
Hey,
but
good
so
for you.
many. I know, I appreciate that. I think Bozy is the same way as well. There, he's 25 and he's learning a lot of things, including the stock exchange. I get to talk to him about getting involved with that sometime soon. There, and now, I guess what it is that so many people today are so they're so into what's current, what's trending, what's excuse me,
Yeah.
what's the big thing now, what's a pop song, and mostly these are the mainstream kids out there who listen to these so-called mainstream artists of today.
Yeah.
That's the thing, this is the thing to listen to. This is the thing to, yeah, don't venture off into other things. It's nice to at that time, they'll talk about this, they'll talk about that, but still, you must follow what's trendy today, and sadly, and that's what they're brought up. That's especially the young kids of
Now,
today.
I never shared this part, but back when I was living in Atlanta, Georgia, before I moved to Texas, back in 2017 and 16, I was at high school, but I also had like a little summer job, which became my real job. I was working at a guitar shop called McKibben's Music, and
Nice.
Miss Susan Kibbins, her husband hired me, and I was taking lessons there, and I believe his son opened up a record store, and I worked there. So I worked at the guitar shop, and his son Max McKibben's record store. So
Cool.
from that, I got a lot of excuse me, there, a lot of knowledge for records, vinyl records, and I got a lot of knowledge on playing the guitar. So I was taking lessons,
Nice.
and on top of that, I was actually learning how to compare my own guitar, like learn how to like add on strings and take off strings, because I didn't know at first how to compare my own guitar, how to fix my own guitar when I had a problem, because I would have to pay like $7 just to get it restrung. So what
Wow.
Matt did, you know what, I'm just going to teach you how to restring your guitar, how to tune it, how to do this and that. So that's why I like listening to you guys, because it's where I need to be. It's my life coming full circle. Even if I'm in a different state, I want to keep doing what I'm doing, and that is
Right.
learning about music and only
Well, I'd
growing.
recommend
So
if you have a chance and the time, Doc has all the episodes on his channel, and I'd start with number one and move forward because number one, we talk about classical music, and then we
Hmm.
kind of move from there into the big band era, and then we hit the
The fi-
50s and go through that,
the
60s, go through
'60s, the
that.
'70s, '80s.
Doc, did you by the chance cover one of my all-time favorite bands from Boston? Did you ever cover Aerosmith?
Well,
Hmm.
we have in part of the show, but we really hadn't gone in depth in them.
Yeah.
But
But
we
we
need
did
to, I
address
suppose.
some of the. We did acknowledge him in one of
Oh,
our
absolutely.
episodes here. We have definitely.
You have to do a review on Aerosmith. They're pretty good. I love that group. I love that group.
Oh, nice. Mm.
Yeah, they're pretty
Would
much
you?
the
Would
same as
you?
they've always been, but they've got different styles they went through.
I know.
Yeah.
And what do you think of it? Now? Have they released a new record in a long while there, or it's just a touring band now?
Actually, they're doing shows in Vegas. They actually do
Nice.
shows in Vegas.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Aerosmith.
Wow. But have they released a new record as of late? Because I don't remember the last one that came out. I think it was.
No, I don't think so.
Uh,
I don't
because
think they have in a
like
while.
I know because I remember this talk back in around I guess around the '90s. I was working at the restaurant in Roseville, Michigan. There, one of the cooks was complaining how Aerosmith sounds more tamer, more calmer, a lot cooler sound than what they used to back in the '70s. There, and he mentioned that Aerosmith probably needs to go back on the drugs so you can come out with more stuff like Round and Round, Walking the Dog, or
Sweet
another
emotion,
Toys in the Sweet Emotion, or another Toys in the Attic there, like
rocks.
it's not, Rocks, or their version of Train Kept a Rolling there, or Seas of Wither, I mean, when you think about it there,
Stuff on drugs. It's not funny. I would never want them to go back on drugs. They
I,
were toxic to each other.
I
Man.
know, I know. Remember, Joe Perry and Steve Tyler, they were known as the Toxic Twins.
They would go at it.
I know, yeah. I mean, I would not want to see Aerosmith go back on drugs, sadly, but to me, they need to come out with a more powerful sound that they used to have, because the past time we heard of them, most of their stuff was played on stuff like VH1, like the song Pink, I was not a fan of, and I certainly was not a fan of I Don't Want to Miss a Thing, that ballad, which is often played on the soft rock stations there.
I have to give it to Steve Tyler. His voice, his vocal range is, my God, that guy can scream.
Yeah, you
He can
can.
scream.
Absolutely, there he is one of the most powerful frontmen out there, next to either Paul Stanley and Ozzy Osbourne there,
Yes.
or
And I
Rob
can't believe
Halford
he
as well.
actually he invented the band called he had a hand in the band called Guns N' Roses on Axl Rose's career too, because
It's
Axl has a beautiful vocal range too.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, he does. I guess he has a 5-point octave. Axel does, if I understand there. I remember reading that in the magazine there.
When it comes to unique voices, I look up to Steven Tyler, Axl Rose, um, what's his name, Vince Neil from Motley Crue,
Yeah, the
Sebastian
old
Bach.
Vince Neil.
Skid Row. Now
Yeah,
Sebastian Bach, he's a whole different case because that dude, oh my God, he can sing so beautifully.
yeah.
I don't know if you know who that is, Sebastian Bach from Skid Row.
Yes, I know. Yes, I do. I remember. Yes. What
I
about
got
Rob
into him. I
Halford?
cried because his voice is amazing, Doc. His
What
voice
about
is so
what
amazing.
about Rob Halford of Judas Priest? Because he's often credited
Yeah,
many time as a supreme vocalist there.
him too.
Yes,
And Freddie
because
Mercury, his
yes,
deep voice.
absolutely. Man had a phenomenal talent and amazing voice to back it up as well there.
We don't see a lot of guys with amazing voice anymore. I wonder why. Like, where are they at? We don't see guys with a
True.
great vocal range anymore. What happened to that
I
generation?
have no clue. I have no clue. So many things have changed throughout since back then. It's and the way it's changed is outright pitiful when you look at
It
it.
is.
I mean, now these days you gotta have. They try to be a singer. They try to be an artist. They often call themselves artists. They call themselves songwriters. But I don't know. I guess the bands of the '90s, these hippie, new hippie groups out there, these hippie jam bands, whether it's the Spin Doctors or the Wallflowers, the sensitive stuff, they got the idea. Oh, we just don't have to sing that good. We just sound like we're singing, but we'll make it big there. Like sing all this depressing stuff about how sensitive they are, and just give me a break.
Not to interrupt you, Doc. That's why when I talked to you, you asked me who was my favorite musician going now. I would say Prince, but Prince is dead. So
Yeah.
I transitioned into loving the work that Lenny Kravitz has because I truly believe Lenny Kravitz is one of the last remaining rock stars of that era of the
Yes.
'90s. Because he was around. He was around when Aerosmith was big, when Guns N' Roses was big.
Yep.
So I look up to Lenny Kravitz because he was there in the '80s and '90s, as a star. And like they say, he is one of the most last remaining rock stars of that era.
Yeah,
Because a
it's
lot of
true
a lot
there.
of these rock stars are just dropping like flies. They're just dying. I don't know why.
Well,
And they always
because
say, "Oh,
I think
they always say
because
that."
I know. I think what it is that some of the I guess in time, some of their habits may be playing a part of it. Like, for example, Let Me Kill Mr. of Motorhead, Eddie Van Halen, they were heavy smokers. And I
Yes.
guess when you smoke way too much as those two did, you're going to eventually get cancer. Like
Yeah.
Eddie, he had part of his tongue removed because he had developed tongue cancer, but yet he still continued to smoke. Why? It's hard to quit that shit because of the nicotine. Like it's
Yeah.
considered worse than heroin, and eventually it would have been the cancers would eventually get up with you definitely soon. For I
Yeah.
remember, he was not looking that good from reports, when he went to Germany here and there for cancer treatment there. And even David Lee Roth said, Van Halen's no more. He kind of knew what was going to happen when you think about it there. And, sadly, I guess a lot of these other acts out there, often people move on to one group to another there. Like,
But
let me give you
smoke.
another example. You remember the hair bands like Warrant, Twisted Sister, and all those bands out there?
Yeah.
Yes, remember that scene was big around 86 to 80, 89 there, or 1990 before the grunge movement came along. They it's sad to see those groups resorted to playing. They was about to play. They were just about to really make it big with their songs, their albums, their videos on the old MTV. Then all of a sudden, Nirvana comes along, Pearl Jam comes along, the grunge scene comes along. It's all alternative now. Then they had to resort to playing, bowling alleys and small dives. You know, it's sad when you think about it. There, you wonder where are our fans? Where are all the people that stood by us in the past? Well, I'm just surprised. Some of the fans that came out to say Seal during those days were just fans for the moment because apparently your songs and your music was trending at that period there. You know, and those fans are not real, the true fans, you know.
Yeah, let me interject something real quick here while I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Are we doing Thursday?
Yes, we are. 6 p.m.
Genesis.
Good. Definitely. We
Early
need people.
Genesis.
There we go.
There was this one kid by the name of I think his name was he was a good friend of mine. His name was Brandon Hardy. And when I tell you, Doc, I
Yeah.
was so jealous because people back in the high school used to call me Prince. But when this man walked the hallways, I mean, he had the stunning, and I mean stunning. And I don't even look like men like that. I don't roll that way. But this guy had a stunning look to him. I mean, he had the blue eyes and blonde hair to where people were calling him Brat Michaels. I mean, he sounds,
Whoa.
he moved like Brat Michaels. I mean, he looked like the front man from Poison. Like he looked exactly like him. And in my opinion, I got jealous. I said, dude, Prince, the singer, the guy who passed away, he was a gorgeous looking dude. But when girls look at Brandon, I'm like, dang, this guy really has it made. I mean, his hair just blonde, blue eyes. I mean, he was like, oh my God. I'm like, dude, what can you not do? And then when I come to find out, he actually sung in chorus. He was singing in chorus. I'm like, wow. He might just be the next Bret Michaels.
Huh, it's kind of interesting. I'll bet he probably got a little of the poontang back then.
Yeah, yes. I was like, dude, I said, you're like Vince Neil, Axl Rose, Bret Michaels combined into one. And then his hair was like so long, like he looked like Sebastian Bach at certain times, you know?
Yeah.
Dude, where did these guys?
Doubt, 'cause I know that was the big thing for the girls back then. They wanted to be with Sebastian Bach, with Vince Neil, Bret Michaels back in the day because they were sexy, they were gorgeous. You know, they had the hot bodies, the marble, smooth as marble skin there. You know, while the regular guys like us, you know, were just like, we were ignored. You know, and that kind of bummed me out. I remember to tell you this one story. My ex-girlfriend one time, and I did call her out for her months later for doing this. I was unemployed at that time. I was staying at her place for the weekend. She was like, talking about Bret Michaels, and this is at the time when Bret Michaels had that brain hemorrhage, a surgery there, and plus, he was on this Celebrity Apprentice with a man, of course, would later become our president later on. And she actually prayed that Bret Michaels would get better. Please God, let Bret Michaels get better. Don't let us succumb to this hemorrhage and stuff. And I couldn't help but be pissed off because at the time she should be praying for me because I was unemployed. I was struggling. I was going through some issues there, financially wise. She couldn't come up with a prayer for me. And later on, I screamed at her for doing that.
Yes.
That makes me mad. It's like,
not to interrupt, back in middle school, I mean, when I tell you, you guys are talking to a young kid that had a catalog, and I mean back in middle school, Doc, when I tell you, people used to shun me, shame me, say I was weird, I was stupid, I was different, because back in middle school, I used to dabble in reading books about, because they had it in my local library, and
Hello?
Yeah, I used to go through some of that too, actually, through middle school and high school, where I was the weirdo because
I was an outcast. I was an outcast because I didn't smoke, I didn't drink, I didn't really abide by everybody else's rules, which back then was the main thing. But the thing
all
is,
that in high grades.
sorry. I'm sorry, Doc. Hold on, I have to handle something. I got a phone call from my mom. Hold on.
Okay, all right. Oh, wait, we'll still be here, I guess. Man, I was an outcast, like I said, because as I mentioned, I didn't smoke, I didn't drink, I didn't do drugs, I didn't do this, And back then, you either had to do those things or you were cast out.
Yeah,
Remember the Rush lyrics? Be cool or be cast out. Yeah. And now you find out some of those kids are having, having addiction issues. They're having problems of their own because they can't get off the booze or the alcohol. I told you a story before about the ex-friend, pushing me aside because I wouldn't smoke or smoke weed or drink with him. And he later ended up having 3 strokes years on down the line. to the point where he has trouble walking. He had to resort to using a cane at times there. But what's kind of funny, I hardly talk to the guy, even though we're buddies on Facebook, I hardly comment on anything.
Right.
It's like, there were a lot of times, I want to call him out, say, hey, you pushed me away because I wasn't what you wanted me to be. I had a hard time picking up women during the glamour of those days of the Ritz and Roseville because one, I wore glasses, which at that time was kind of nerdy-ish. I didn't have all that massive hair, and I dressed my own way there. And I guess what it was is that because I wasn't when everybody else was dressing at that time, I was looked on as a weirdo. Now, some of those people are dying off for this reason or that reason. I'm still here, along with a couple others there. And you got to remember, this was way back before we see things on these memes on Facebook saying, be your own kind of individual. Have your own ideas, speak your opinion, not everybody else's. Be your own kind of crazy, That's how it was back then there. So I can understand where these memes that we see now, like I mentioned, are coming from there.